If you read the reviews of Fibermucil, people have a love affair with this product, just as they say do with circulation vein support. But talk about a fiber product that will not upset your stomach, that will not cause bloating, will not cause gas, and all it does is gently helps move things through you in a comfortable fashion, helps support regularity in a comfortable fashion, because it's hard or impossible to be regular without adequate fiber intake. And one of the defining characteristics of the American diet is inadequate fiber intake. Also, if you want your numbers with Cholesticare, if you want to add another 5% or so in the reduction that you get with Cholesticare, every time you take a capsule of Cholesticare, take 1 or 2 capsules of Fibermucil. Cholesticare kind of acts like a sponge. It really blocks the absorption of the cholesterol in your body, the blocks the reabsorption of bile. And what Fibermucil does acts as like a broom, sweeping it out. So between the two, you get even better cholesterol reduction and an even greater improvement in terms of your cardiovascular risk profile.
So, Andrew, as we come to the end of the show, there is a question I want to ask you.
Uh-oh.
Okay. If you could travel back 38 years, right, what would the Andrew Lessman of today say to the Andrew Lessman who is just starting out? What would be the advice that you would give that Andrew Lessman?
That's a great question, and I would have no doubt about the answer. That we talked about this show initially, we talked about stress and sort of having conviction about having a path in life. That I had conviction, I had a path, but the world is a difficult place. And what is it in Shakespeare? Surviving the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. That life can be harsh, life can be difficult. And what probably the most important thing I could say is just keep the faith. Just hang in there, because a lot of those big companies out there targeted us. And sometimes you just have to keep the faith and have confidence that if you do it right, that you're going to survive and you're going to do well. So that's what I try to say that when I speak to students, when I speak to young people, that I say whatever you do, you just have to do it with conviction, do it with passion. If you have doubts, put them on the back burner.
Yeah.
Let the world tell you if what you're doing is correct or not. This is a product that focuses on the symptoms of menopause and perimenopause, a bit on PMS as well, but really menopause and perimenopause, that's where the product is at its best, and that's where the reviews are most remarkable. But when I first introduced this product, and again, I talk about things that probably dates me or ages me, and because I started my company 38 years ago, when I first introduced this product well over 20 years ago, I could not speak about, even though I knew the incredible benefits it had for the symptoms, hot flashes, night sweats, interruptions of sleep, I couldn't speak to those things. Because whether I like the law or not, I respect the law. And at that time, the law was, going back over 20 years ago, that if something is a symptom of a disease, you can't offer a supplement to mitigate or to treat that symptom of a disease. And the reason I'm saying that is because at that time, menopause and perimenopause, of all things, was considered a disease. I think the drug companies are always out looking for a new disease, but it's amazing that at that time, I think what's wonderful that's changed is now so many more women are involved in the medical profession, the medical field, our physicians themselves, in the regulatory fields as well, that the outrageousness of that position, that menopause and perimenopause were a disease and you couldn't offer product to help with that because that would be treating a disease, that's changed. So now, fortunately, but it doesn't change the way things are with other dietary supplements. It just means that this bit of unreasonableness is gone. So, but as I said, it's for me, I mean, fortunately, I'm not like the big pharma companies. I don't aspire to be a big company. I just aspire to be the size that we comfortably can be, and that's it. And when it comes to Ultimate Women's Wellness, it's a product that if you read the reviews, you will see that whether it's hot flashes, night sweats, interruptions of sleep, the mood disruptions, and every woman experiences menopause and perimenopause differently.
Folks, this is where I started with Andrew, way back when, with Andrew's Essential One, and I greatly enjoyed the last time Andrew was in St. Petersburg. Andrew, you had a real comparison chart showcasing, because there's a lot of us out there that take a multivitamin. And if I ever see anybody out there taking one, I always ask them, well, what are you taking? Have you thought about Andrew Lessman's Essential One? For somebody that wants a multivitamin, when we say the words, the best in the world, we mean it on every level.
Yes, and what's so great about Essential One is how easy it is to show how objective, meaning that no matter what whether you're prejudiced, whether you're biased, just objectively, we're going to talk about facts. We don't need any alternate facts or alternative facts, whatever they call them. So if you just look at the facts here, it's a small, easy to swallow capsule versus these enormous horse pills that are difficult to swallow.
They are.
The ultrafine powder that dissolves instantly, making it available for absorption and helping you, versus a large tablet that might not disintegrate, might not be beneficial, and will most certainly upset your stomach. So just objectively, just even without even trying the product, just looking at one versus the other, that capsule is preferential. In fact, there's a lot of medications on the market now that even though they're still in tablets, what they do is they coat them with gelatin,
right,
and they call them like a tabsule or whatever it is, a caplet. They make them look like capsules because they know that consumers, like us, we prefer capsules. I'm someone who, I don't make any products in tablets because I can't tolerate swallowing tablets. If I had a handful of capsules and one tablet in with them and I took it,
right,
the one tablet, whatever, 10 seconds later will still be in my mouth. The capsules will go away. They'll just slide right down. So tablets are just, I bet I know your next question, they're cheaper to make.
Okay.
They're cheaper to make, they're easier to make, you throw in a bunch of additives, you mix it up, you put it in the tablet, you die. Plus, you take materials, in many cases, that are living materials like friendly fluoro or things like that, and you compress them under tens of thousands of pounds per square inch of pressure with these additives to make them stick together, because you have to add glue to the tablet because it's not sticking together on its own. Then you typically coat it. Then you sometimes coat it with sugar, which most of the leading multivitamins, if you read their label,
right,
they have sweeteners and sugars in them. Why? Because they want you to like the taste of that tablet in your mouth. They have artificial colors in it. Why? Because they think you won't like the vitamin as much as if it isn't a pretty